Good morning, breathers. So I think it's very important to talk about the role that our breath plays in our daily life. So we breathe about 25,000 times a day. It's the most underrated activity. We can breathe a lot of different ways, but most of us don't even think about our breath. Just some fun facts. I just want to share some things because it's key for our health, our mental health, our physical health, and it's something that we're already doing, and it's something that we can do consciously and with some knowledge. Just some fun facts we have about, according to Patrick McEwen, we have about 60,000 miles of blood vessels in our body. And we have about the square foot area. If our lungs, if the air sacs were laid out on the ground in our lungs and opened up, we have about a tennis court square foot area of our lungs. So we have a lot of capacity to extract oxygen. We have, what is it? I just counted them this morning. Not really. 25 trillion red blood cells in our body. That's quite a few. And in each of those 25 trillion red blood cells, we have 270 million hemoglobin, I say hemoglobin molecules inside each of the 25 trillion red blood cells we have. In each one, we have 270 million hemoglobin molecules. And in each one of those hemoglobin molecules, this is awesome. I mean, think about it. Each one of those hemoglobin molecules carries 4 molecules of oxygen. So 25 trillion red blood cells, 270 million hemoglobin in each blood cell, and in each hemoglobin, we have 4 oxygen molecules. So it seems to me like we have a great potential circulating throughout our 60,000 miles of blood vessels all through our body. We're breathing 25,000 times a day. And with our breath, we control our mindset, we control our body temperature, we control our blood pH level. Our body is smart, it knows how to do this, but we have to work with it. We have a wonderful sinus cavity. It's huge behind our eyes and behind our nose. It's not just these 2 little holes. It's about the size of a billiard ball in here. And that's not by accident. It is not by accident. We have structures in our parasinus cavities. Paranasal, that's the word I'm looking for. Help me out. Paranasal cavity. We have these little bony-like structures called turbinates. We have a lot of hair, a lot of cilia, mucous membranes. So when we breathe through our nose, it swirls, it gets filtered, it gets filled with nitric oxide, which is produced in our nasal cavities. It gets imbued with carbon dioxide when we breathe through our nose. It's pressurized, so it goes deep into our lungs. And our nose, that's a smaller orifice than our mouth. You know, we can get a lot through our mouth, but that's not filtered. It's not humidified. It's cold, dry air that dries out our lungs, that tennis court area. So we were designed to breathe the breath of life through our nose. It's warmed, filtered, pressurized, purified with carbon dioxide and nitric oxide. It's a fantastic immune tool. We have great bodies. It's like driving around in a brand new Corvette, we'll say. We just need to know how to drive it. We need to drive using the right fuel, optimizing the gifts that we have. And, I keep talking about it because I don't think you're going to hear this from too many places. I mean, Patrick McEwen's talking about it. James Nestor wrote a book, Breath. Patrick McEwen wrote a number of books, The Oxygen Advantage, The Breathing Cure, I think it is, another one. But we're not being told about that. For example, sometimes we have a lot of sinus infection, rhinitis. And according to Patrick McEwen, who has worked with thousands, tens of thousands of individuals with breath work, he says very rarely do those individuals need surgery. I mean, if you need surgery, you need surgery to open up your airways. But if you don't use your airways, they're going to plug up. So we need to take a few minutes each day, and if not, every breath, every day, we need to breathe through our nose, opening up the airways, strengthening the airways, strengthening that awesome muscle. What's that muscle called? Oh, it's called the diaphragm. That's also called the second heart because it's pumping. It's helping the heart pump. It's expanding the ribs. It's helping our posture because it's attached again to the lower ribs, to the pericardium sac, to the lung sacs. It's attached to the lumbar spine. It's attached to your lower spine. So you're strengthening your center. You're strengthening your core. You're strengthening your spine. If you're prone to lower back pain, you need to breathe through your nose. Breathe slow, low, and deep, giving it much more time for oxygenation. And when you're doing that, again, I want to mention this. I don't think it can be mentioned too much. The reason our stimulus to breathe is to blow off carbon dioxide because we have chemosensors in our brainstem and in our blood vessels. And we're hardwired to be sensitive to carbon dioxide. So when we have too much carbon dioxide, which, well, we think it's too much because our thermostat is set really low. So we're very sensitive to carbon dioxide. So we're breathless. We're blowing off carbon dioxide. So we do breath holds. Breathe in, breathe out, and hold it. Until we feel a strong to moderate air hunger. And what that means is we're sensing our carbon dioxide levels build up. And that's what we want to do. We're readjusting the thermostat. So when we're through holding our breath, we breathe in through the nose gently in a controlled manner. This is a form of high altitude training. This increases our tolerance for carbon dioxide. And Christian Bohr, I think it was in 1904, he was a biochemist, I think it was. Anyway, it's called the Bohr Effect. In the presence of carbon dioxide, the bond, we talked about hemoglobin and oxygen. They have a bond, and we have tons and tons of oxygen in our body. So when we up our carbon dioxide tolerance, which is also good for anxiety and mental health, we up our carbon dioxide thermostat. So we have more circulating carbon dioxide and as well as nitric oxide. So when we have that bond between oxygen and hemoglobin is lessened. And why do we want that? We want that so that all the oxygen floating around in our 60,000 miles of blood vessels, our 25 trillion red blood cells that have 270 million hemoglobin molecules in it that carry 4 oxygen molecules in each hemoglobin. So when there's higher degree of carbon dioxide, the oxygen is more readily released. And where does it go? It goes into your brain, it goes into your working cells, your muscles, your organs. So this is functional breathing. You can do all kinds of fun breathing exercises. But what you want to do, what you need to do for functional daily health is to retrain your breath, to breathe through your nose day in and day out. Tape your mouth with some paper tape at night, just a little piece. It helps. It doesn't prevent you. You can still wake up with your mouth open and a dry mouth, but it helps remind you, and it does help keep your mouth closed. So you breathe through the day, through your nose when you're working out, through your nose when you're on the yoga mat, through your nose when you're sleeping, through your nose. So you are habitually, functionally breathing. So if someone's prone to have sinus infections, well, that's a problem, but it can be addressed through strengthening your airways. And your airways are directly connected with your lungs, which is directly connected with your total functional full body health. So before you go into surgery, work on something you're doing 25,000 times a day, people. Work on your breath. No one's telling you to do this. People will say, the doctors will say, it doesn't matter how you breathe. Breathe through your mouth. Just get the air in. Well, it's just like saying it doesn't matter what you eat. There's more to the story, as God, I can't remember his name, Paul Harvey. The rest of the story dates me a little bit, but you can affect optimal health, which is your birthright, simply by retraining your breath. But it has to be a training. You have to work on it. You're already doing it how many times? Yes, that's right. 25,000 times, give or take, each day. So if you have rhinitis, try this. The doctors are going to give you some kind of antihistamines, and those are Band-Aids that have side effects. You know what the side effect for functional breathing is? Open airways, greater mental health, greater physical health. Those are the side effects. You find yourself sighing frequently during the day. That's a sign of dysfunctional breathing pattern, and that can be overcome by taking a few minutes every day to focus on the breath coming in your nose, focus diaphragmatically, relax, do a few breath holds. You don't have to pinch your nose if you're around people. You can do this. No one will even know that you're firing your body full of energy, full of life. Something you do every day. You don't have to go out in the woods, be with 20,000 people and have a big party, although that's fun. You can do this day in and day out, all day, all night. This is your inheritance. This is your birthright. It's not a mistake that you were created this way. It's not a mistake that we rose to the top of the food chain. We are the most developed of all the species. You might disagree with that. You can have your opinion, I can have mine. But history shows us that we are the most developed and we have the greatest impact, for good or for bad. Anyway, work with your breath. Work with your breath. It's important. You are important. Each one of us is totally unique, totally has the right. Well, I could say in many ways to inherit the kingdom of God, or, has the right to realize that we are children of God. If we are children of God, however you want to visualize that, if we are children of God, that means we are related. That means we are part of that family. That means there's similarities. Our kids kind of look like us. Our kids a little bit behave like us, for good or bad. So we have this birthright. And this is just one key. This is one biohack. But it's fundamentally, functionally, foundationally imperative to put your mind and your heart on your breath and reap the benefits that you're freely given every moment. Okay. Can you do me a favor? I'll ask this favor before I go. It's for your family. It's for your loved ones. Shut your mouth and save your life. Thanks. Coach Couch out.